Culture Corner, what's good? This is your host, Sha-Elemental. I got my man DOS, Death Over Simplicity, and we back with another episode of Masters of the GamerVerse. So, real quick, it's been a little
Return.
while since we touched base with y'all, so we figure might as well start off with, I guess, what we've been playing during this break. I know me, I've gotten a ton of gaming done, but I'll let you go first, man. Let us know what you've been playing.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Lost all my hair, stressing out about these games. Not really, but yeah, lately I've been playing Mafia. So the Mafia remaster, I beat it and it was awesome. Like, I originally played Mafia 3. That's the only game in the series I played up to this point, but it's great. It's like, playing through uh a story of the Godfather. You know what I'm saying? Instead of following like the Corleone family, you're following the Salieri crime family and, you know, my man Tommy who gets involved from starting as just a cab driver. You know what I mean? And it's a dope story. I think easily adaptable into a film if
Oh,
anyone wants
absolutely.
to do that. Um, but I think it shows why games have like great storytelling because you're involved, get to go through, see all the betrayal and problems in the crime family, and the remaster is amazing. Like the first game, if you look at the original footage, it looks like Tomb Raider. You know what I'm saying? Like their mouths don't move when they talk, and this
Yeah,
one they stepped it up in every way. It was great, and
yeah, those
yeah,
games are phenomenal.
yeah. So, and I'm looking forward to, I'm gonna play part two, and I'm gonna get ready to play the old country when that comes out. But
Yeah,
besides that, I've been playing. My background is this game called Roller Drome, and it's basically think Tony Hawk mixed with Max Payne. You know what I'm saying? So you basically you're on roller skates. It's like in the future they make this arena sport, and it's like you know football and UFC like all together. It's like the biggest sport, and you're on rollerblades. You could do tricks, and tricks is how you reload your ammo and you shoot other players that are trying to shoot you down while you're rolling around different skating rink areas. Like one is on a rooftop, one is on like the level behind me. It kind of looks like a Tony Hawk level, but it's got its own intricate story. There's like conspiracy behind, people rigging the game, and it's interesting. It's really fun to play, but the story is interesting as well, and it's definitely worth playing.
dope, dope. I actually got that for free on PlayStation Plus. I want to say I might have to check that out. I always add them when they come up every month, just in case. You never know. This might be one of those times where I go back to it later, and get down on that. Speaking of which, you mentioned Mafia. I actually beat Mafia 1 and Mafia 2. I'm actually like probably almost 30 hours into Mafia 3 now. And yeah, man, you got a lot of good stuff coming your way when you get into Mafia 2. Story wise, like you were saying, these games are like they're ill. Good solid stories, good gameplay to match. Mafia 3, there is a lot of like side missions, so if you can get bogged down in those, which I am getting bogged down on them, but I'm actually enjoying it, so I don't mind. And that usually doesn't happen in a lot of open world games because a lot of things I'm just like, I don't care about that. When you just got to go get this thing to check a box. In this game, I've noticed that so far, most of the missions, even the monotonous stuff that you do over and over again, is still fun. It's just fun in that game to sneak around and take people out and like, take out a whole warehouse of goons and then like hem somebody up and turn them to your side and all that. Like, the game's dope. But yeah, man, you're gonna enjoy part two, especially right after playing part one for sure. I think they did a great job with these as far as remasters are concerned. Um, the controls are a little weird when you go from one to two, but you get used to it after a while. And then three is slightly different as well. But overall, solid games. What else did I beat? I ended up finishing God of War Ragnarok finally. Um, Man, Spider-Man 2. I'm playing a lot of Helldivers 2. I actually went back to Battlefield 2042. I've been playing a little bit of that. A little bit of Call of Duty here and there when somebody else wants to play. But yeah, always NHL, of course. But that's basically my go-to right there. So that's what I've been rocking lately. Now, is there anything else you've been rocking lately? Is that pretty much it? Just them two?
Yeah, I've been playing some more Sonic Mania. Actually, trying to
Okay.
usually with the Sonic Mania, like I love the game because it's especially the story behind it where they took people that were making custom Sonic levels and brought them in for an official
Yeah.
release. it's super fun, but it's one of those games I never get stressed on beating it. You know what I mean? Like I could play it, I could play a level or two, and if I lose to the boss, it's like, all right, I'm moving on with my day. I might move on to another game, but now I'm focused on beating it. So I've been playing a bunch of Sonic Mania.
Okay. That's dope. So to get into the serious stuff now, I guess we got to start serious a little bit. Might as well. A lot of this is actually kind of serious, but a lot of layoffs going on in gaming lately. People have been talking gaming crash, saying, and it looks like it may be a slight one. I wouldn't say it's more like the recession compared to the depression, I guess you could say. It's not like it's back like in '83 when Atari, the whole gaming crash happened then before Nintendo came out with the NES. But this is a pretty bad hit lately. A lot of jobs have been lost. You're seeing a lot of games come out with a lot of money behind them and just failing outright. I mean, look at Concord. I don't think we talked about this much, but it's basically a game similar to the team-based shooters. What are they called? I can't think of it right now. Overwatch.
Overwatch, Destiny.
Yeah. But they spent, I guess, $400 million over 8 years to develop this game, and they only sold 25,000 copies when it dropped, and they had like player counts in the hundreds at points, probably lower at other points. So they basically pulled the game back offline, and now they're talking about there may be layoffs going on over at that studio after that. But the game looked extremely well made. It just looked like nobody wanted to play that type of game right now. And with all these live service games, it seems like people are really getting fed up with that. And it's kind of like, all right, like, yeah, we like this, but can we get some single player story modes? Can we, do something else, especially after 8 years and $400 million? I'm not one to ever panic, and I wouldn't either if I was Sony, because I mean, you look at Helldivers 2, it was a similar situation, except it was successful, so they kind of balance each other out. And over the long run, Helldivers 2 will probably make up more than that, I would think, as long as they keep doing what they've been doing with the game. But yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, and then you got all the Xbox layoffs, these other studios closing down. The Annapurna situation, they just had a whole studio just walk out and just leave them like, nah, we're good. We're going to go over here and start our own thing. It's crazy, all the stuff happening. And you look at the generation as a whole, it's kind of like we were saying earlier, like a remaster, generation, remake generation, where we're getting a lot of stuff, put back out, which is good, but we're also not getting as many like original franchises and quality sequels to franchises that we know. And it just seems like this is kind of a downtime for video games. But at the same time, I don't know about you, but I got plenty of things to play. So it's kind of like we got spoiled, I think, for a while. And it's like things are slowing down a little bit right now. But hopefully Xbox and PlayStation picks it up going forward, because they do have all these studios, and Nintendo does what Nintendo does. But what are your thoughts on like the whole situation with the economy of gaming right now and seeing what's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially Concord. I'm pretty sure the last episode we were talking about the trailer and how it had very, very much a Guardians of the Galaxy type of feel, and it looked fun. But yeah, it sucks when things don't perform. But I think that's going across entertainment in general. You know what I'm saying? Like games are a form of entertainment in the same way as movies and music, and you can see across these industries a lot of layoffs, a lot of constricting of how people could get money. And in music, you could look at what Live Nation has done to the ticketing of live shows, and how they've kind of taken over and reduced the ability for artists that are not top tier to make money. And it has an effect. You can look at what Spotify has done, where they don't pay their artists, but they're willing to pay a podcast that'll bring in subscribers exorbitant amounts, but won't pay their artists who created the platform for in the first place to make money off of it. So people are seeing this across the entertainment sphere. You know what I mean? And it's same thing with movies as far as remakes. There's tons of remakes. People aren't willing to invest in an IP, and that's what it comes down to on the bottom line. Like a lot of people, us as consumers, we're like, yo, we want new stuff. We want new stuff. You could see it in comic books where they're like, we don't want a different version of Spider-Man or Superman. But it's like, hey, if we put out a brand new IP, a lot of people aren't going to buy it, and we're going to take a hit that we might not be able to recover from a business standpoint.
Yeah, you got to walk a thin line with a lot of that stuff, especially with like a new comic character. I feel like that's why you do see a lot of characters, especially in comics that are successful, kind of start within certain groups that are already established, like say the Avengers or the X-Men or like something like that, where and it does kind of make sense because it's an easier way to transition and create them. And you're just adding to the legacy of that group, like say the X-Men. There's been like at this point literally hundreds of X-Men. I think at least over 100 people have been in some version of the X-Men. And a lot of characters debuted like that, which
Yeah,
it
but they're
does
not,
make
you know, any X-Men book, they're not selling like a Wolverine book does.
no,
You know what I
they're
mean?
not.
So, you know, from a like it's a business point that you could say why Wolverine, you know, dies once every 7 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, if you're a longtime comic reader, you see that and you're like, all right, like he's gonna be out the game for a while, but he's coming back, and he always does because you know
Yeah.
that bottom line is there.
I know because I got the book over there. It's the Death of Wolverine, and I'm like, yeah, he been
Which
back.
one is it? Is it the adamantium statue one?
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
first one, I think. Not when he was almost dead when they ripped the adamantium out of him when Magneto did that. That was dope as hell. But that was Fatal Attractions, I want to say, when that happened. Which
yeah, but
classic
you know,
moment. They actually
like
did that in the new X-Men cartoon this
word,
past
yeah,
season.
that was dope.
Yeah, fire. Absolute fire. But yeah, man, it seems like
Yeah,
the
another remake. You know what I mean? And that's what people are going to like.
continuation, not a remake, to be
I mean,
fair.
yeah, but a refresher. You know what I'm saying? They're going back to old IP.
Yeah, but if you're going to do it, that's kind of a good way to do it, in my opinion. Because I'd rather than you remake something, if you have the ability to just continue it, I would rather see that. And with that, especially that X-Men, they did cover a lot of the classic comic stories. But you got to think now too. There's also like what 40 more years of comic stories that they can now adapt and continue that cartoon for a while. I'm all for it. It's well done. They had Ace of Base in it. Come on, man, Ace of Base.
Word.
It was dope. But yeah, the nostalgia is cool, but sometimes it can be overkill. And I think we're kind of treading into the overkill area a little bit when you're seeing certain games, which I don't want to, take a dump on anything or anybody. So I'm not really going to like point out any certain games that you see getting remastered and re-released that really don't deserve it or warrant it. But that's also not up to me, I guess, either. If there's a market for it, you can do it. But like you said, it's very hard for these companies to take these chances on new IP because you see what happened with Concord. We're talking 8 years, $400 million are the reports. So
Yeah,
that's
and success doesn't even equal longevity on a business side. You know what
no,
I'm
and
saying? And
quality
you know,
doesn't equal success either.
Tango GameWorks is a great example of that. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And in between, I think in between our last shows, they shut down and got bought. So it looked bleak, and then they were bought. So they were shut down by Microsoft after a successful game. Hi-Fi Rush was successful and it was innovative, getting great reviews. And the stuff they were saying, there was an interview with the developers in the interim when Microsoft was shutting them down. It was pretty disheartening as a creative that wants to make money. They were like, we thought all we had to do was make a good game, and they did that, and they were successful, and they still were getting shut down. Luckily Krafton came in, which is a Korean studio, to help them pursue, I think expanding Hi-Fi Rush and also developing more things. But it's crazy, and that's a company. Tango GameWorks was created by a veteran. It was created by the director of the first Resident Evil. That's why two of their games were Evil Within and Evil Within 2. And it's people that know what they're doing, but the business can dictate things that you have no control over.
Yeah, it's kind of like music. You can have the greatest pen in the world, but if it doesn't hit on a business, in a business sense, then you're not going to reap the rewards of that. You know what I mean? It could be the best game ever. It could be the best album ever. But
Yeah, especially if the parent company has other priorities. In the music industry, it was, labels getting bought by other labels, different
Yeah.
executives getting switched around. With movies, something like the Batwoman film getting scrapped, that was a purely business decision that I'm sure DC Comics wasn't happy about. Whether it was good or bad, is in the air because it never came out, but they spent millions of dollars on it, and it made sense for another part of the business, not necessarily the people that were very focused on making it happen. They just shut it down. So a company like Microsoft, who they're not only game focused, if another part of the business decides that, this part doesn't have to exist anymore, the game focused people have no say over that.
Yeah. And it does seem over at Microsoft, like just from the outside looking in, it does seem like the overall Microsoft business is kind of maybe calling the shots over there at this point, or just having a bigger influence based on certain things that have been happening recently. I think, for me, in my opinion, I think you're starting to see the negatives of something like Game Pass because they probably lost a good amount of sales on Hi-Fi Rush because it was on Game Pass. And if you think about it, look how many, I mean, what is there, like 100 games on Game Pass Ultimate roughly? And games that come out day one, it doesn't make any economic sense. And I'm not in economics, like, somebody who knows a lot about that, but just mathematically, it doesn't add up to me, especially for a game of that size. Because to me, that's not a $70 game. That's maybe like a $50 to $60 game, we'll say, to me at max. But that's still a lot of money that's just left on the table because people probably just downloaded it and played it for free on Game Pass, who may have potentially bought it at some point. So I don't know. I feel like Game Pass is kind of just something that isn't sustainable in the long term. But Microsoft seems really committed to it. So it looks like they really want to push it. And I think if they continue to do it, you may see more of that happening. I don't know who could be next. Possibly Ninja Theory would be one you'd look at because of Senua's Sacrifice, the second game there. You played it. I played
Yeah, amazing game. It was amazing.
Yeah. It literally looked like it like visually was just amazing to look at. And you look at the quality of that game, and I don't think they probably made their money back off of that either. And it's like that studio is super talented. They've made a lot of good games, in my opinion, going back to like Heavenly Sword and Journey to the West, and just really good quality games. They might not have sold a lot, but the games are good. And yeah, man, it definitely seems like Game Pass could be holding these studios back.
Yeah,
And they
it's
just
a possibility. But speaking of Heavenly Sword, I was thinking, like, I love, those type of hack and slash games. And there was one that hurt me, man. I was planning on playing Black Myth Wukong, which is that's right up my alley for the type of game I love. And for some reason, it was delayed. So it came out, I believe it was August 19th for PlayStation and PC. And I went to get it because sometimes I'll take a hiatus from gaming news and stuff, and I was severely disappointed that it wasn't available for the Xbox. And they're working on getting it up to standard for whatever reason to release it, but this isn't the first game that has been announced for Xbox and then it's had a delayed release. And this game, it looks, from all accounts, it's amazing, and people are having a great time with it, but not me, not yet.
Yeah, it seems like now there's two options as to why this happened, because I've heard rumblings of the two things I personally think it could be, right? It could be a timed exclusivity thing with Sony, which is a rumor I've heard, where they may have paid to just have it exclusive on console for the first year or 6 months or something like that, which they do from time to time, which Microsoft does the same thing with games they have in the past, and same thing with like downloadable content. So like Call of Duty back in the day on Xbox 360, it always came out first because Microsoft cut a deal with them. Then PS4 generation, Sony got to cut the deal first. But um, it just seems at this point, I think it could be the Series S holding it back. Is it that? I got rid of mine because I own physical games, and I got my Series S for free, which was cool at first. I think I played like, I don't know, 1 or 2 games on it that had dropped that were Xbox exclusive, like right when I got it. Played a little bit of those, but recently I got rid of my Xbox Series S because I'm a physical game owner. So I got stacks of Halo and Gears of War over here that are just like useless on that machine. So I was like, I don't even need this thing. I got rid of it. I might get a Series X at some point when it drops in price, but it definitely isn't a high priority, and I do not understand what Microsoft is doing these days. I just
Yeah, listen, and besides this game, I'm very happy with that with the Series S. So it is disappointing because this was a game I've been hype about for years. You know what I mean? Like this is one of those games that there's always those games in a console's lifespan that is like it really looks like the one that's taken advantage of its capabilities, and that's what this game always seemed like, where it's like graphically and gameplay wise, it seems like it's really pushing the limits of the current generation. But this is I got a big backlog, so it's not too painful. You know what I mean? So it just sucks that I wasn't able to play it at the same time as everybody else.
yeah, it's always disappointing when that happens, but you'll get it eventually, I'm sure. They just got to work out the kinks,
Yeah.
or just wait for that period to end.
But to
Um,
make up for that, today MK1 has a DLC. Their story DLC, Chaos Reigns, drops today, so I'm probably gonna be playing that tonight.
there
Um,
you go.
and I hope they have more story DLC planned. You know what I mean? That's the ill thing that they've been doing, is continuing that, really putting a focus on their story, because it's one of the it's convoluted. It's especially once they added time travel, it's hard to like for one
Yeah,
person to explain the timeline to you. It's like you got to sit down and hear a lot of shit, but it's great and I love it. I love how confusing it is, and it's gonna be good to see what direction they go in.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. And I think that series is just set up, especially now with like the fidelity that they have graphically. Like the story means a lot now in that game, where originally it wasn't like huge part of it. You know what I mean? The first couple back in the day, it was just all about like the gore and ripping people apart and doing fatalities. But over the years, like it's evolved to where like the story is actually a big part of it. Like Mortal Kombat 11 had a crazy story which carried on from all the ones before it. So it's really cool when they're able to add cool story to a fighting game, because usually like that's what makes me want to play. Like when I played the original Tekken, I wanted to see every ending and saw what happened to each character and stuff. And that
Yeah.
kind of made me want to go through it with everybody, and that made me put hours in. Where some fighting games I just don't feel that way with. I just kind of feel like it's just, whatever.
Well,
Because
I will say they were on it for a long time. Like it's just they didn't put it at the forefront. You know what I mean? So now it's like it's a dedicated mode and it has a story that carries on. Especially if you start with 9, which still holds up, it carries all the way through to now. But in the old Mortal Kombat games, they just had a wall of text. But most people, I was a
yeah,
kid back then. I wasn't reading all that. I was like,
you
let me
just hit
get
the
to the
button, it's like,
fighting. But I had a cousin who you could be like, yo, tell me what's the story from Mortal Kombat 1 to Armageddon, and he'd run it down for you. You know what I'm saying? Because he was just into it. And if you were dedicated, you could watch read the walls of text and get the story.
or yeah, those games, man. You're right. Very convoluted story for sure. Speaking of convoluted, um, I guess some messaging. We'll just move on to something now. People may want to get their tissues out. Certain people. We're going to talk about the PS5 Pro. Uh, Controversial, expensive. Got a lot of people in their feelings. Um, I'll just start off by saying my take on it is like, yeah, it's pricey, but if you look at inflation and stuff like that and adjust for price, it's still cheaper than the PS3 when it came out. which would be the most expensive console they ever put out technically, based on that. But it's just, for me anyway, I want higher frame rates on games. That's kind of my thing that always kind of bothers me with the game when when you turn in the camera and you can see the stutter a little bit. It's just like, after playing any game on PC at a high frame rate, you're just like, wow, damn, like consoles do not have a good frame rate. So for me, I'm probably going to end up getting one at some point when I can afford it and it's easily affordable for me. I'll probably trade in my existing PS5 and get one, so it's a little cheaper. But I want higher frame rates, and if that's going to give it to me, I'll probably get one. I enjoyed my experience with my PS4 Pro. That thing is still going strong, still plays games pretty good in 4K too, which was the big selling point of that at the time, really, plus a little extra muscle it gave you. But I just know from my experience with the PS5 4 Pro that a PS5 Pro for me is an okay investment. Some other people who don't, game a lot, don't care about something like that, I wouldn't necessarily suggest they go out and get it, but nobody's being forced to get it. So a lot of the crying I see online and just in comment sections and other, YouTubers videos about it, they're like losing their minds over it. I will say, I think it should have came with a hard drive. I mean, sorry, not hard drive, a disk drive. So the price is, especially at $700 without a disk drive, I'm like, but they did give you 2 terabytes of storage, which is a big upgrade from what they, came with originally, which wasn't even a terabyte. So I just think it's an optional upgrade. If you want it, get it. If you don't, you don't. Nobody cares. And let's move on and let's stop crying about things that really don't matter.
Yeah, it is
Obviously,
interesting that PlayStation, their diskless version is the more powerful one. But
you can buy a drive and add it though, so it just costs $80. Right. So it's going to cost you $80 more to add a disc drive.
Yeah,
so
speaking of frame rate, I wish, there are some games, like it's rare to see, as far as I know, I wish more games had the options in the graphic settings to drop the output, drop the lighting settings, you know what I'm saying? Like less shadows, so you could get that higher frame rate. Because sometimes, depending on the game, I don't really care for it to be the prettiest. I want it to run the smoothest.
Right. Especially if you're playing like Call of Duty or something online, per se. Say you're playing Warzone. I just want it to run really smooth. So I'd rather have that than necessarily the, all the lighting being super crisp and all that. As long as I can see and it looks okay, then it's good enough for me. I'd rather have the frame rate.
Yeah, there's somebody screaming at me right now, just buy a PC. But you know what? I don't feel like it. All right.
No, I don't want to buy a PC, and I don't want to spend thousands on upgrades over the next year or two, just keeping it up to date. It's just too much work. I want to buy a console every few years and play games on it until I can't anymore, until the new thing comes out. Right. And where I do, if I can anyway, I probably end up owning, if not all the different consoles, at least 2 out of the 3, we'll say. Lately, I've been having a hard time justifying owning an Xbox just because pretty much anything on it I can play on my PS5 eventually at some point. Even Indiana Jones now, we found out, will be coming out to PS5. So I'm like, that's one less reason to own an Xbox, which is why I just don't understand what they're doing, really. Again, I have to say that. But it's to me, it's just an optional system. People need to get over it, move on. Everything doesn't have to be such an overreaction. You can just say, "Oh, not for me," move on. It's not like Sony is putting a gun to anybody's head, forcing anybody to do anything.
Yeah, they're shutting down production on all PS5s. It's all going to be PS5 Pro.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, you have to spend the $700. And everybody who owns a PS5, you have to send yours in and pay the difference too.
They're gonna remotely brick your console.
Yep. But yeah, man. I mean, that goes into one thing though, because people are saying they're upset about that because they want to know where the games are. Where are the games? But we kind of covered it a little earlier too with the remasters and stuff. That's really where a lot of people's time is going to, I feel. But it does seem like this generation has a lack of games where we're not getting as many new IPs like we said before and stuff. So it's like,
I think it's the big games
Where's it going?
because there's a ton of indie games that are amazing, but they don't have the marketing push of say a God of War Ragnarok. You know what I mean?
Right,
I
right.
think that's where the talent is in the game, and there isn't games in the same way there was in like the last generation, but there's a ton of awesome indie games that are just not they don't get the push that these other games get, but they're still great games.
Yeah, it's crazy because you'll see games with like a 20-man team made in like four years, we'll say. And then you'll look at something made by a team of like 400 people, and the one made by the 20 people will look just as good, if not better, in some cases. And it makes you wonder what these big companies are spending all this money on. You're just like, where? I'm not seeing that money on the screen. If it's like, if they can do it, why can't you?
I don't know how to call that one, but there is great things happening. It's just not the big games. You know what I mean? And then there's games like Fortnite that are, they're just like omnipresent. They're just continuing to carve their own section of gaming.
Yeah, it's crazy. They keep expanding too, because now you can they got the racing in it and the Lego thing, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
seem
To tie it with music, one of their new things
oh, yeah,
is
the
they
Guitar
have
Hero thing.
Marvel crossover and Day of Doom, and in the trailer they put some MF Doom lyrics, which was super dope to hear.
Oh,
Um, it might, there's a slight chance I'll play it for like a day because I'm not a big Fortnite guy, but seeing that trailer and seeing my man Doom in there, at least hearing him was dope enough that I might pick it up, have some fun.
yeah, for sure. They suck me in once in a while with some of their crossovers when they do something like Marvel, where like they did one with like the Predator. I did uh Mandalorian. They had a couple cool ones that I've got into. They've had like Spider-Man on there and stuff. So they do some cool stuff, which I guess is why they're, like you said, so omnipresent, and they just don't seem to go away. Same thing with Roblox. It's just they just print money. I wish I came up with it.
Word. Yeah, Roblox is another one, and you know, one of the crossovers that's about to come out. If you watch Sonic Central, is Sonic. Sonic is gonna have a Roblox crossover, and a ton of crossover. It's like there whoever's part of the marketing team, especially I feel like it's the movie marketing team has like been talking to the game marketing because they're pushing super hard. Sonic 3 is coming out, so they got a Roblox crossover, Top Golf crossover where the ball is actually the Sonic characters. DC Comics is coming out with comics where they got Knuckles as Superman, um, Silver is Green Lantern, and Sonic is the Flash. So that should be interesting, even though Knuckles should be a Red Lantern, but whatever.
So
Um, but yeah, like I think Sonic Central was dope. You know what I mean? And I like to talk about how whether it's Sony State of Play, uh, different presentations from executives always come off dry. This one was good. It was like it was it was decent. You know what I mean? They weren't as like cardboard and flat about the games they were talking about. You know what I mean? And the creative officer, Izuka Takashi, he was rocking a diamond shadow chain, which is dope.
oh, that's dope.
Yeah, but yeah, ton of dope Sonic stuff coming out. Even if you play Sonic Adventure with the Chows, getting your little pet characters that you have to take care of, coming out with like an animated show for the Chows, and and another crossover, Super Monkey Ball, which that makes sense. Sonic running around
Yeah,
with the Super Monkey Ball crew.
yeah, that's dope. It's always good to have more Sonic too. I think we'll be getting a new Sonic Frontiers probably within the next year or two, or at least
Listen,
we'll hear about it.
for any remaster, like is dope. Sonic fans are eating well right now, but Sonic Heroes, they need to remaster that.
Hmm. Maybe
That
do a Sonic Adventure 3 would be dope too.
I don't know. I think you're messing with classics there. Sonic Heroes was like an underrated. It's like my personal favorite, but it brought in like the other characters don't get a lot of shine, like Biggs the Cat and Vector and stuff. So
Hmm. I can see that. That'd be good too. We always gonna get something Sonic too. It's like he's on a steady drip feed. you got like a game at least every 2 years that drops, if
Yeah,
not a collection or
that's it.
something.
I think the movie like really was he was already coming out. Sonic games were already steadily coming out, but once the movie dropped, it was like a big boon to Sega.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, since you brought it up, State of Play is coming up later on today. We're filming this a little bit before it drops. So you got any predictions for State of Play? I think I got one.
Nah,
Besides
I got none. I got no predictions.
I, okay, I guess it's not a prediction. It's just a hope. I'm hoping we get at least a trailer for Ghost of Tsushima 2. I think it's time. I think Sucker Punch has probably been working on that. They've been really quiet for a while now, and I'm hoping we get a trailer for that today. The first game was amazing, one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know where I'd rank it because there's just so many great games I've played. It's really hard to do like a solid like list, but it's definitely up there. I absolutely love that game. The dueling mechanic was really dope when you go in the dueling mode. And then just the open world aspect of it. Like I was saying earlier about Mafia 3, it's one of those ones where like I'm not getting sick of doing the side missions. They're fun in their own way,
Yeah,
which is always a good thing.
I got lost in that world for a while.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful world too. I haven't played it on my PS5 either. I played it on my PS4 Pro when I first played it, so probably should pop it in the PS5 and see what it looks on there, like on there at some point. But yeah, man, I'm hoping that's what we get. But there are rumors we're going to get a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster for the PS5, which is like for me is whatever. It looks good enough on the PS4 as it was. But I guess sure for whoever wants that. I don't see it doing like tons of sales, but
That's good for a reintroduction though. Like that world is awesome. You know what I mean? And for anyone that played through the first one, the way they explain how the world happened, it's like
yeah,
an amazing like sci-fi adventure. You know, and it was fun. So
yeah,
and what I like about Horizon Zero Dawn is you can attack and defeat an enemy even if it's way outside of your level. Like if you're smart
yeah.
and
Take
you
your
just
time.
if you chip away at it, you can win. It'll just take, a half hour instead of 5 minutes, which I
Yeah,
like. They give you the option to punish yourself if you really want to take the challenge.
yeah. For me, I'm playing it. I've only played a few hours into it, to be honest. But I did play it a little bit the other day for a little while, and it gave me the I was playing this part where like there's this like worm thing going through the ground and jumping out and trying to kill me, and I have to like jump out of the way and then like quickly shoot it in its panels and things like that. I haven't beat the bastard yet, but I'm gonna. But it gave me like almost like a Souls like kind of vibe with the boss battle and stuff like that, which I find pretty cool. It felt like a challenge. A lot of games you play like that, you get to like these encounters, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna power through it, and you pretty much can do whatever and beat it. And what I liked about this was like I had to think, and I'm gonna have to think to beat this boss and be on point the entire time to do it. I don't know if anybody's ever compared it to a Souls like, but
No,
that
I think it's way
specifically
more
gave me the vibe.
forgiving. Is it is way more forgiving? I will say that.
Okay. See,
But
I don't play
you
those
know,
games because I don't have the patience. So
yeah,
what would I know?
yeah, those games. It's like they start you off on hardcore difficulty, and you just get, it reminds me of like older games. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Super
like
Nintendo
Mega Man.
era games where it's like you get hit once. Yeah, Mega Man. You get hit once, it's over.
Yeah.
Metroid. You get hit once, it's over.
Well,
So for me, I'm kind of not. I want a chance. I want to take a couple hits there. You know.
yeah, you want to have fun with the game. That's like I was playing the first Mega Man. I think it was the day before yesterday, and I'm just playing it. And I'm like, yo, this game is so unforgiving and hard. I'm just like, man. I'm like, people enjoyed playing this. Like, I enjoy it and I like it, but it's like I'm like, man, I can't imagine like nowadays, like how people are and how finicky and like short attention span they are. That if like something like that was to come out now, and that was like, I'm like, would people even like give it a chance? And they'd be like, oh, it's too hard, screw this, and just keep moving, like
No, it's a point of contention. Like for people that like the Souls games, that's the point.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like
yeah, that's true.
if you
Mega
can't
Man.
handle it, get the fuck out of here. I don't know how I beat Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice,
Yeah,
because that game is it's like that. You know what I mean? But because of the style of game, you're like a ninja, and it was a spiritual successor to Tenchu, which I'm a huge Tenchu fan. I
yeah.
powered through, but I died a lot in that fucking game. But
Well, I think we all did. Now you mentioned that Near is like that as well. Near 2, aren't those
I've
like
played that
similar
one.
kind of game? Oh no, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure those are similar to that.
Where
But
I'm
yeah,
at, I'm
um,
gonna add that to the list.
yeah. And the list grows and grows. The backlog is crazy. I'm just looking right here, and I'm like, man, I got a lot of games there that I'm like, yeah, I'll beat that eventually. Will I? Who knows? We don't know. That's like
Word. Yeah,
Bioshock.
and games that are
Bioshock.
which the first one or any of them.
Any of them. I own them all on multiple
Oh,
systems.
fuck. What the fuck, yo? Listen, we're about
It's
to
there.
we came off a hiatus. We're about to go on another hiatus until you fucking beat Bioshock, bro. That's
He's like, I don't
crazy
even want
talk.
to talk
That's
to you
crazy talk.
until you play these games. I know.
Yo, Bioshock, Bioshock 2 is cool, but Bioshock 1 and Infinite, fucking masterpieces.
No, I absolutely love the intro to Bioshock 1. Like the whole first couple hours of that game are absolute fire. And then I just got stuck, and then I got distracted by God knows what at the time. I want to say it was Metal Gear, possibly something. I'm going to blame Metal Gear. Blame Solid Snake. It's always his fault. Oh,
Or
speaking of which, I don't know if you saw, but they did mention recently that they're gonna do a Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 2, which I figured when they called the first one Volume 1, but they did hint at Metal Gear Solid 4 actually getting ported finally to other systems, which is going to be huge. I don't know if you played that one. A lot of people don't like it because there's very long cutscenes. We're talking like an hour and a half long cutscenes, but the game itself and the story is dope if you're like in for something like that. So hopefully we'll be getting Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 2 with that on it. I'm hoping Peace Walker is on that. That's a great game that was originally on the PSP. So if you're a Metal Gear fan, looks like things are looking up. Plus we got Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, the remake of Snake Eater, which looks to be pretty much like a spot-on remake. Just everything is higher fidelity, maybe improved controls. But yeah, man, if you're a Metal Gear fan, things are definitely looking up for
yeah, it would be
sure.
dope. I played a little bit of 4. I didn't beat it, but
Okay.
I
It
played
was
a little bit
challenging.
of it. And Metal Gear Delta got pushed to 2025, which is cool. Just work through the backlog. But I am excited because that's my favorite of the series.
Oh yeah.
Especially like the cutscenes they use, especially when I'm not even gonna say depending on whoever's watching might not be up on Metal Gear. I'll leave everything to be a surprise,
Yeah.
but
And if you have,
it's awesome.
you know, um, yeah, for real. Matter of fact, let me run that back. If you haven't played Metal Gear, get on that because you're missing out on a great series. I would say, especially what would you suggest somebody getting into Metal Gear start with? For me, I
Uh,
like doing everything in order, so like I'm kind of
Chronological or the order they released?
chronological, story wise. Now that they're all
Yeah,
out, I feel like
I think I started with 2, so I kind of feel like that's but also there wasn't a remake or remastered version. So playing 1, by the time I played 2, playing 1 was difficult. It was like archaic. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
So it was
sure.
like I don't want to deal with this, especially graphics were updated by the time I played 2. So I would start with 2.
Okay.
For whatever all the downfalls, there isn't a lot of um, especially with the character change and stuff. But 2 gave me like a real love for the series overall, and it was that was my entry.
Now, did you ever play Twin Snakes, the remake of Part One for GameCube?
No,
See, I think if because I tried the first Metal Gear when it came out was cool. Metal Gear Solid, I should say, on PS1. But man, it graphically and like visually, it does not hold up very well to today's standards. So I would suggest if you're gonna play that, if you're new to it, I would probably play the Twin Snakes version for GameCube if you can get your hands on it, because it has the same graphics and engine as Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 2. So if you haven't played that, I would definitely try to get your hands on a copy of that if you can, because I think you'd enjoy that, and it would definitely make the story of Metal Gear Solid 1 much more palatable for you to get through, because it definitely improved it. I played the first Metal Gear Solid originally on PS1, and then I played that later, and I was like, this is much more accessible for people to come in and play, just visually and control-wise, even though the GameCube controller is one of the weirdest controllers ever invented. That thing's just strange to me in so many ways. But yeah, man, Metal Gear fans got a lot of good stuff in coming. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. And I would say, too, if you haven't played Peace Walker as a fan of Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, you definitely want to play Peace Walker if you can get your hands on that as well, because it just continues off of that story, and it's dope as hell. And they're like quicker, shorter missions, too. So it's really cool if you're just trying to play for like 15, 20 minutes at a time and don't have hours to put in to do things. But if you do have hours, you're going to get hooked just on the whole idea of it. So what you do is when you go into a level in that game, any guy you take out, if you kill them, they're dead. But you can knock them out and then attach the balloon thing to them. I forget what it's called. And then it takes them and sends them to your base, and you brainwash them or whatever, and then he becomes one of your soldiers. So you like actually build your army while you're out doing missions. So it's pretty dope. Classic PSP game for sure. One of the best. Now, let's get in our game recommendations. I got a good one actually today. At least I think so. I don't know if you played it. I'm not a huge Tom Clancy fan, whether it comes to like the novels. I've read like one or two. They get really technical and stuff like that. But the games haven't always been a huge fan of. Splinter Cell was dope, but beyond that, I haven't really been a fan of a lot of Tom Clancy stuff. However, this game right here, Ghost Recon, the Wild
Word.
This game right here, dope. It's almost like Grand Theft Auto meets Splinter Cell, but you are in a squad of 4 guys, and like you can tell them what to do, or you can play like if me and you wanted, we could team up online and we would be 2 of the 4 soldiers, and we could have 2 other people if we wanted to, and we could like really roll out with a squad and like attack things like, you know, very tactically and stuff like that. So really dope game, great map. I think takes place in Bolivia. Yep, Bolivia. And you basically take down a cartel in the game story wise, but it's great. It's got, you know, your typical, you know, vehicles that you can get in any Grand Theft Auto style game, helicopters, you know, planes, every type of vehicle you can drive. Really dope story. Just a really fun game, especially if you got people to play with. And there's a dope sequel. I can't think of the name of it right now, starring John Bernthal, the guy who plays the Punisher in The Punisher and Daredevil and everything. That game, when it first came out, was actually a single player game, and people were like, why would you go from a squad based ill setup to dumbing it down to a single player game? And they actually listened to the fans and updated the game. So now in its sequel, it's set up the same way with the squad and everything. And you can play through the game now like that, which is dope too, which I think is pretty cool, because you don't see a lot of studios actually listen to the fans like that and, you know, make an about face and update something like that. So I do suggest these 2 games, and you can get them really cheap right now too. This probably costs like $10 or something like that if you can find it. So that would be my recommendation right now. Definitely play this game if you haven't, and you're into that type of game.
Word. Yeah, I haven't played Ghost Recon in a while. So yeah, I might have to get back into it. Yeah, so my recommendation. So I'm playing. I've been trying to beat this game that I started a very long time ago, which is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Came out 2018, but that's not my recommendation because I think it's a bad game. I'm just beating it for completion's sake, but I will say
one?
that is the third one. How the
Did you
third one is
start?
the worst out of the three, I don't know. But
Is
for
that the one where
anyone,
you start with the fat guy, and you're like you have to go up like the muddy trail in like the beginning of it, and then you go to the little village to start?
yeah,
Okay,
you go to the
that's the
village
only
and you,
one I haven't finished because it didn't draw
yeah.
me in like the other
Listen,
two.
listen, I'm trying. I'm like, I want to beat this game. It's free on Game Pass, so I'm gonna beat it, but it's
Yeah,
bad.
but
But I
PS
will
Plus.
say for anyone that's even if you're not a fan of Tomb Raider, 2013 they rebooted the series, and that game, the 2013 version of Tomb Raider, I'm pretty
Fire.
sure it's just called Tomb Raider. That's
Yep.
it. Yo, play that and beat it because the story is amazing. The cutscenes are great. It's fun to play, and it is. I think that's the high watermark for the Tomb Raider series, in my opinion.
I think so too.
And if you're a fan of especially Uncharted, like it's definitely
I was
got
gonna say.
Uncharted vibes where it's like
Yeah,
big events happening. You know what I'm saying? But it's also got like it really leans into the archaeology of Laura Croft's character and her finding out different things about ancient civilizations while you're trying to fight against government forces. So it's an awesome game if you haven't played it. 2013 Tomb Raider.
yeah, that game's fire, and I think it's cool how that Tomb Raider is inspired by Uncharted, which was inspired by Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones. Like I'm
Word.
just like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's so fun. Like,
that
it's like
cycle of
those
inspiration
critical
giving us
moments.
dope games.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, man. We need like, what do you think they should do? Do you think they should reboot Uncharted, or do you think they should continue on with like his daughter or something?
Well, I'm not heavily invested in Uncharted, so I'll say whatever they do, I think they should make more. Whether it's continuing his story, maybe tell a side story because I know those games take over a number of years. There's plenty of time to make a whole game based on a story they didn't tell. But if they move forward and being like he's the new you know older wise person to teach his daughter, or maybe he's dead and he's just leaving behind clues for her to follow in his footsteps. I think there's a lot of ways they could go.
What I would like to see is maybe do the next one where the main character is his daughter, and he just kind of comes in a few scenes and guides her along, and whatever happens story wise, game ends, and then they do a sequel to that where he gets drawn back in at his older age, and now he's like Sully
Yeah.
for her. Like that's what I would like to see. Even if they go right to that, I'd be okay with it. Although I would like to see it drawn out a little bit more, just because it does kind of seem like the easy thing to do in a way. I would
This
like to see.
I think there's a void of that kind of game. So whichever way they do it, I think it's worth pursuing more Uncharted games.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are probably the best action adventure games I've played personally. I could be biased. I don't know. I just absolutely from the first one just love those games. Even the PS Vito game was great for what it was. Really fun games, just good adventure, Indiana Jones style. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. I like Tomb Raider, so it was like right in the wheelhouse. Um, Now, with all that being said, why don't we get our plugs in and hit the dusty trail?
Word.
Um,
Yeah. What do you
what,
got? What do
you
you
got
got coming
anything
up?
you want to plug? You got coming up?
Yeah, I got my first record pressed to vinyl coming out October 1st. That's
Ooh,
yeah, it's
jealous.
called The Light at the End. It's produced entirely by DJ Proof out of Miami. We got 2 videos out right now. And yeah, it's called The Light at the End. I'm super excited. Only 100 copies, so pre-orders are up right now. If you go to deathoversimplicity.bandcamp.com, just straightforward boom bap hip hop, and knowing me and what I do here, you might catch a game reference or two. So yeah, definitely look forward to dropping that. And then some more music is in the tuck, which is rare for me. So I got more coming after that. But first vinyl release, The Light at the End.
That's dope. That's dope. Oh yeah, man. I just want to plug a couple shows I got coming up. Really, we got October 18th. Me and Speak the Rebel as the Scumlords will be performing and opening up for Self-Titled at Electric Haze in Worcester. That's going to be a good time. Who else is going to be? Savage Land's going to be there. Ghost and Weapon, Artusits, Strife. Then we got
What's the date on that?
October 18th.
Word.
Electric Haze in Worcester.
I'm gonna be
And then
there.
we got Weapons release party for his album with Tim Berry coming up, Kensei. That is, what do we got? November 8th. We got that popping off at Starlight in Southbridge, Mass. Are you rocking that one?
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be floating around. I might make a
Okay.
cameo on the mic.
All right, I figured you'd probably end up there and rapping at some point. But yeah, man, I got those coming up, just those two shows. And then we got another one coming up in January, celebrating Brad Bailey's birthday in Providence, Rhode Island. Details will be coming soon on that. And then, man, I'm probably going to drop at least one more album by the end of this year, maybe two, who knows? Got
Oh, shit.
the Bofat joint. I'm going to do another one with Bofat. I'm already deep into that joint. Shit's coming out insane, too, in my opinion, but I always love me some me. So...
Hard.
I feel like we should kind of be like that, you know. We should love our
Yeah,
shit.
for sure. And I will say I got one show coming up October 2nd. That's gonna be in Portland, Maine at the Aphodian. I'm playing the Stereo Dreams anniversary. So Stereo Dreams is a beat show put together by Graphic Melee out of Portland, and I'm gonna be playing some beats, and definitely gonna rhyme some of the new album at the show. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Stereo Dreams at the Aphodian in Portland, Maine, October 2nd.
That's dope. That's so Portland's dope too. I love going up there and just walking around, checking out all the shops. You know what I mean? Freaking eating some good food.
Yeah, I have a great time every time I'm out there. So
yeah, it's always a good time there. That's a good place spot too. Do show out there, get a hotel, and just lounge out there for the night. Do whatever. Obviously, not drink and drive because that's bad. No drinking and driving. That'll get you in trouble and cost you a lot of money. You could
5
be
stars.
on video games.
Word.
And that's our advice to you. Spend money on video games, not fines from the police.
Word.
Because we're responsible people.
I mean, you know, we do what we can.
We try. We're not perfect, but we try.
Yeah. And signing out for Masters of the GamerVerse is Death Over Simplicity.
Sha-Elemental. Peace, y'all.
Peace.